This week on our Toyoace Chop Shop, we make a hot box. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Toyoace Chop Shop. This week we're working on Toyoace again. We're going to get some hard lines done for this cooling system and hopefully finally button it all up and actually get some water in this thing and run it for longer than 2 seconds. Alright, so the plan for this episode is we have our radiator mounted, we have our engine mounted, we have all of the stuff mounted. We just need to actually get some hard lines or some rubber lines from the engine to the radiator and back and forth, obviously. So we've got the header tank mounted in a previous episode, so that needs to get plumbed to the radiator. The radiator needs to get plumbed to the engine, so it's all a bit of a thing. So the plan is Aiden's going to come around shortly, so he's on his way. So what we're going to do is we're going to make up some aluminium hard lines, mount them to the tray and the cab, and then run a small piece of rubber line from the hard line to the radiator or to the engine, depending which end it's on, obviously. So that will cut out a lot of the rubber, and then obviously we won't have a 2 or 3 meter stretch of rubber line that can pop and expand and rip and be damaged. So the plan is hard lines, so let's hope it goes smoothly, and I'll catch you up when Aiden is here. Aiden's here.
Oh, hi.
Cutting pipes. He brought his mobile workstation with welders and stuff. The power cord situation is my fault, not his. What's going on? How are you?
I'm not bad.
Doing this tonight, you reckon?
Doing something tonight.
Okay. So what size is this? Inch and quarter, I think.
Something like that.
So we've got a whole bunch of these little bends. Aiden's cutting them into a rough shape that he wants, using the bandsaw, and then hopefully going to try and run these hardline pipes from the back to the front, and then use some rubber lines just on the ends to try and make it all join together. So Aiden's got the first piece welded up, so that goes from what will be the bottom rad hose, which is the back one, all the way over the top, and then kicks it towards the front. So then you do similar here, just a lot shorter, and then 2 of them. Is that the plan? Yep. And the 2 of them will run together to the front, and then some kind of magic up there. You loving it?
Oh, I'm just thinking how we're going to install this.
That's a me problem. Got one pipe done. It's not mounted or anything, but it's got the right shape, and then it kicks over at that end there. So now he's going to copy the same thing through here and then along that way. And then we'll try and make some mounts and then try and work out a solution for the front. Alright, so Aiden was in and out pretty quick, got this thing smashed out. So super happy with how it's all turned out. I just need to make some mounts and bolts to the actual car itself. And then this one here is another little extension that comes from the front thermostat housing, or the top one, I can't remember, and just kicks it out to the side of the car, so we can do it in 2 pieces. And then bead rolled that with a fancy pair of pliers that Aiden made, so it's a little bit untidy, but it will stop the pipe blowing off, so that's all that really matters there. So I just need to utilize these tabs and make it all bolt to the body. Alright, so to help with this rear radiator setup, I bought a forward-facing thermostat housing, so that goes to a 90-degree rubber, I think, that then goes to the header tank, so it should be pretty helpful now that it doesn't point at the rail. I also got a 160-degree thermostat, so that should be lower than the one that's in it and should help it open sooner and make use of the rear radiator, so that should be nice and happy. Then I got some spark plug boots because someone told me to. I think it was Roman again. Told me to get some spark plug boots, so I did that. I'll chuck those on, and then we should hopefully never melt one, because that would be a huge pain. Alright, so the next job is to put these thermal boots on the spark plug leads. It's going to be a little bit awkward because there's not much room, but I'll chuck these on, and hopefully we won't have any issues with the spark leads again. Not that we've had one yet, but I'd like to eliminate it entirely. Alright, so that's the spark plug lead covers back on. Funny story, the back cylinder on the passenger side wasn't plugged in properly. Wonder if it's going to run better now. On to the next job, which is the thermostat and the new thermostat housing. Alright, so just before I chuck these on, 160 degrees Fahrenheit. This Proflow guy is actually 2 pieces, which is kind of cool. But no seal, so I have to rely on this seal here, but it actually has the little recess for the little tank, so the thermostat's up the right way, which is pretty cool. So jump under there and hopefully this will bolt straight on. To show how awkward this is, that's the thermostat just there, and this is the best camera angle I can get. Alright, so there you can see the thermostat in place. I did focus the video on the other one, which was silly. So this guy here, I think that goes up 90 degrees into the header tank, and then this front one comes straight out and into that little half pipe that Aiden made, and then out of the header tank to the back, and then out of that little half pipe to the back. So super awkward to show you guys, but that's what I'm working with. So hopefully we can get some pipes on here soon and never have to touch it again. It's been a long time between drinks for this old girl, so I have not finished this episode for many months. I'll put it on the screen how long it's been, but Aiden helped me out months ago building the hard lines for the radiator, which you would have just seen, and then this morning I finally got a whole bunch of stuff together, cleaned the shed, ran out of stuff to distract myself with, and decided that today's the day I'm going to try and finish off the radiator lines. So I've bought a bunch of radiator rubber lines and a few clamps and stuff, so I'm hoping we can get most of this knocked out tonight. It's currently like 5 or 6 o'clock already. But I got nowhere to be, so I will just try and get this thing done. I am missing one hose, which they assured me was going to be there, and I sat out front of the shop for like an hour waiting for the stock guy to show up, and it went to the wrong store. So that'll have to be here probably Monday. It's currently Friday night, so I'll finish this episode maybe next week, but you'll see it now. So let's get into it. Alright, so I've got a few rubber hoses here. I'm not really sure if it's going to work, but I'm going to give it a shot. So we got 2, I think they're VX Commodore top hoses, or lower rad hoses, sorry. So I've got 2 of those, which are the same because they're the right kind of sizes and they're 90 degrees. And then I've got a Mitsubishi Magna 2.6 litre TS top radiator hose. So I only need this really for straight pieces, but it also has a couple of bends in it, so I'll give that a shot as well. I've got the hard line, which I took to the shop with me to try and get the right size hoses, and then a bunch of sockets which I took, which are all the right kind of sizes for the fittings that I've got on the radiator and stuff. Then a box of hose clamps, and we're missing one rubber hose, like I said. So between that pile of stuff and this pile of stuff that I have from last time I was working on this thing, different sizes of hose, and then some radiator hoses or heater hoses which go to the front radiator, and then a bunch more clamps, just random stuff. I'm hoping I can get some fluid in this thing. So I need to mount these hard lines first, but because I have a little bit of play with those and only a certain amount of rubber stuff, I'm going to mount the rubber stuff and this sort of at the same time. But Aiden, when he made this thing, put some little tabs on it for me, so I need to make something off the truck that can mount to those tabs, but it should be pretty doable. So I'm going to start and try and figure this out, and I'll update you when I have something to show. Alright, before I start, I bought these the other day. They're 1 and 5/8 or 42mm SP branded hose cutters. They're apparently for PVC, but they seem like they work pretty well with rubber. So just open it up and then it ratchets closed, and will probably cut your finger off if you weren't careful. So let's see how they work. So before I get too deep, this is the part number. I have 2 of these, which are the VX Commodore lower radiator hoses, and I have 1 of these which I've already cut up, and the part number is that. So that's all I've got to work with at the moment, and let's get into it. Alright, I'm not sure what I was thinking at the shop. I'm missing a few crucial parts. So I dug out the box of hoses and dug out a bunch of bends. So this is going to be the one that I haven't bought from the shop, so I'm still waiting on that one. This one is half of the Commodore one that I got from the shop, and then just stepping it down and making it a bit straighter. And then there's 2 90s on the back, which I had off of, I assume, a Corolla at some point. A straight piece in the front, and I'm just going to cut some bits of tube down and make some joiners. Alright, I'm loading into the Toyoace here, so I hope you can appreciate how hard it is to film. So there's two 90 degrees up there. They came from the scrap bin, so I assume they're probably Corolla ones. Then we've got the hard lines that come through here. This is the driver's side. And then we've got a little extension, which is the only piece of the Mitsubishi hose that I ended up using. So that was a waste of money because it was like $50 and I used this much, which is kind of dumb. So then there's a little piece of bar in there just to get a little bit more length on this guy, which is the top half, or half of the top Commodore radiator hose. And then this one here is basically a straight piece. It's got a tiny bend in it, which I didn't really need. That's off a ST141 Corona because it said that on the pipe and it was in the rubbish bin. And then up the top, so following this one around, there's a straight piece on that end, which may have come from the Mitsubishi one. I'm not sure where that came from. And then this one is the 38mm 90 degree, which I still need to get from the shop. So that one will get replaced. Need to sort out something a bit better here because I don't like it, but it's not the end of the world. So in theory, I could put hose clamps on all that and it should work. So then the next problem is coming over to the, what was the heater circuit. So that now runs to the front radiator, which is over here. I've got a bunch of lines that I did previously that will go on there. So it goes from 17 to 19 to the intercooler thingy, which I'm using as a radiator. So I'll chuck all those in now and I'll chuck hose clamps on everything. And then we'll try and get some water in this thing and see where it leaks, because it's going to, because there's a lot of joins. Alright, so I've been working for a couple of hours and have all the hoses roughly hooked up. So there is stuff everywhere, and I'm going to try and put some water in it and see how much it leaks. And I'd like to get it up to temperature and test the fans, which is kind of why I'm trying to rush this tonight. But we've got everything hooked up, so we shall see. And then around this side, we've got this header tank which goes to the radiator, and Ronnie has informed me that there's a steam port up on the engine somewhere that I'll need to run to something. So one of these will get relocated to the front and one will get left like that. So I'm going to chuck some fuel in this and then we'll run it and see if the fans kick on. Alright, so we got the OBD2 hooked up, so we'll be able to see the water temp and the RPM and stuff. Just gone for the steam port into the top of here for now. So it'll be a bit awkward to fill up the water, but we'll just pull that hose out and put it back in when we start it. I'll get some more fuel and push this thing forwards a little bit and see if the fans kick on and what the water temp does. Wish us luck. Alright, so we bled the coolant. It was actually pretty easy. Ronnie just opened that back header tank and it seemed to burp a whole bunch of water out, air out, sorry. And then once the water started coming out, put the cap back on, and then it bled the front one. Seems pretty happy. So we've filled it up with fuel. We're going to let it run and look at the OBD2, and hopefully the fans kick on and the water temp stays pretty manageable. So let's find out. Alright, so the intake air temp is about 15 degrees, so it's probably about that out here. The water is already at 30, which is good. It does look like it's getting kind of full, which is not good, but we'll just let it bubble away, and we think the fans should kick on about 80 degrees, so we'll keep an eye on that. The exhaust is pumping out heaps of burnt oil because there's way too much oil in the engine, so we'll just keep an eye on everything, make sure nothing's going crazy, and hopefully these fans kick on. Alright, so we let it warm up a little bit, got to about 45 degrees, popped that back cap off and let a whole bunch of air out, which is really good. The funnel is not as full as it was, which is really good as well. So we'll just let it smoke away and fill this place with oil and smoke. And hopefully the fans kick on. Alright, we got the blower back on with the throttle just locked, so that can just sit there and blow, hopefully some of the oil out. It's burning a lot of oil and stuff off the engine as well, which is good. So it's a 160 degree Fahrenheit thermostat. We're at about 83 now, so it should be getting close to opening. And then hopefully these fans turn on. Alright, so the OBD2 said we got to 100 degrees, and both this funnel and the back one, the back header tank, they're both cold as, so something's not quite right there. We've probably got a whole bunch of air in there still, so we'll just keep playing until we can get it to work. Radiator pressure tester, try and force some water where the air is. We just found out that the water pump is leaking, the gasket's leaking. So that's a small problem, but it's not easy to fix. You can't find any leaks, and it's still at 60 degrees, so I don't know what's going on. We think we had a blockage. Something just opened and started pumping water everywhere, so that's good. Water's going in and air is coming out. Alright, it's been running for like 45 minutes. The OBD2 sort of says about 80 degrees and it keeps sort of climbing and lowering. The fans aren't turning on properly, which is a bit weird, but I can jump the relay. Don't really know. It doesn't seem like it's super hot. The oil has burnt off the exhaust, which is nice, so it's not chucking it everywhere. But I don't really know what else to check without the fans turning on. It's a bit awkward. So the fan relay is working, although I need another one because I've got 3 fans on one relay for some reason. So that is working, but the trigger isn't working, so Ronnie's trying to find it in the ECU at the moment. We're not 100% sure if it's triggering to earth or triggering to power, which is a bit annoying, but we can turn the fans on by jumping the relay so that it is all wired properly. The trigger is just not correct. So it might be hooked up to the aircon fan or like a high-low fan, I'm not too sure. So Ronnie's just digging around now and hopefully we can find something. Alright, so we're digging into the ECU here. Ronnie's looking at pinouts, trying to find which pin should be the fan trigger, and then we'll try and work out if I've used the right one or not. Alright, so we've switched the relay to earth trigger, which it wasn't, and apparently this is on fan 2 because that's how the ECU works, and apparently fan 2 turns on at 111 degrees Celsius, or like 230 I think it was Fahrenheit. So we're going to just let this thing get hot to like 112, and if it gets to 112 and the fans don't kick on, there's still something wrong. But we've tested everything I can think of, and without taking the ECU out and getting the fan temp turned down, I'm not really sure what to do. This week on our Herface Chop Shop, we make a hot box. Alright, we need to do away with the funnel because it's just not building enough pressure and temperature. So it gets up to temp about 100 degrees, just hit 100, pretty much bang on, and just overflowed. So we need to put a actual rad cap here, but we can't do that because we have the steam port that needs to go somewhere. So I guess we could block the steam port off and then block that off, but it's just not really working. And everything is soaked, so that's awesome. Alright, we're trying again. Got a bit of cruise control action on the throttle. Not anymore. It's about 82 degrees. We've got the cap on this time and the rear cap's on, so we're going to try and get it to 111 again. And hopefully it actually works. This is our last chance before we give up for the night. Alright, we're at 105 degrees, which is the hottest we've had it. And we're waiting for the fans to kick on. What temp? Got the overflow going into this bucket, so hopefully we can try and catch some of the water. Ronnie just mopped up, so try and keep it a bit nice. Have a look at the OBD2, see what temps we're getting. 108, 109, so this one here. They're on, so 107 are turned on apparently. Yeah, it's definitely on, hey. Sweet. Is the front one working? Let's have a look at that. The front one's working. It's not great, but it's working. That's good. So they turn on about 107 or 8. Is the temp going down? What's that at? 100. They're off. Alright, so they turn on at like 107, 108 and they turn back off at like 100. Seems really hot, but it seems happy now. Well, that took many hours of messing around. Come on, buddy. Come on, buddy, I'm hungry. There we go, fans turned on. At what, 108? Turn on 108. Let's see when they turn off. It's real hot back here. 107, 105, I think you're saying? 106, 105. 104. 103. 102. Turns back off. They're off. 102. Alright, well we'll lower that when we get a tune, but they are working. Alright, so 107, 108 they turn on. 102 or something they turn back off. The amount of times we had it to 105 and got scared and turned the whole thing off. If we just went to 107, this would have turned on hours ago. But the relay was negatively switched, so I did stuff that up, and I do need more relays because all 3 fans on one relay seems like too much. But it's working, and it is almost 11 o'clock, so I'm done, and I'm sure my neighbours are sick of this thing. So let's go get some food, Ronnie. Alright, we're calling it there for the night. We've got it, the fan's working, which is great. All of the cooling system seems to be holding pressure and isn't leaking. The water pump gaskets are leaking, and there's a few things on the list to fix, like those fan relays. But all of that will be kind of boring, so I'll just do it in my own time. So that's it for this week's episode. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next week.